Players quickly rejected the latest baseball proposal. I hate to waste your time on it. You know, we talk about this. It feels like we get an update, a new proposal, counter proposal, and it's every couple of days. I don't know what's happening. And then it feels like that deadline is, well, they better get something done by the end of this week. And then next week we'll say the same thing. They better get something started. Okay. Look, I've covered these lockouts and strikes before, negotiations, and they're always they agree on just about everything. And there's always the money aspect. And you say, well, that's a big deal. And it is, but they sort of know where the sensitive areas are. And then they still have to get a sign-off from health officials to be able to pull this off. Because you're not going to be quarantined in Orlando. You're going to be playing all around the country here. Baseball, tap me on the shoulder when you got some information here, because it feels like it's this, this verbal game of ping pong that's played between the players and the owners. We don't care about the money. We couldn't care less about the money. We just want to know. It's like, I don't care about the labor pains. Just show me the baby. All right? Show me the baby, and I'll get you a nice gift. I cared about my wife's labor pains. I really did. But I don't care about baseball's labor pains. Warren Moon threw as pretty a deep ball as anybody I've ever seen. Jeff George was another one who threw a great deep ball. Warren's were usually caught, though, as opposed to Jeff George's. And the Hall of Famer joining us on the program. Good morning, Warren. How are you?
That's not fair, Dan. Jeff George did have a talented arm, though, man. He could throw it from every angle, from every platform. I love watching him throw the football.
Most physically talented quarterback you've ever seen?
Wow. You got to go by eras. Like John Elway was pretty physically talented during the time that I played. You look now at Patrick Mahomes. I mean, as physically talented as he is. Also, Aaron Rodgers. There's been a lot of them. So I don't know. It's hard to say one, but those guys that I just named are pretty much in that same class where they can throw the ball from any angle, any platform. Feet don't have to be together. One of them threw the ball with his left hand in a game and completed one. So that tells you how talented those guys are.
How helpless is that feeling when you're on the sidelines and you're watching a quarterback lead that 2-minute drill and there's nothing you can do?
Believe me, I've been there because I remember in Denver, we gave the ball back to John Elway with 1:48 left on his own 5-yard line. And I'm sitting on the sidelines hoping our defense can get him stopped so we can win this playoff game. And he takes them down, converts 2 fourth-down situations, and ends up going down and getting the final score to beat us. So there was nothing I could do over on that sideline, as you said, because my job, if anything, I could have got one more first down and hopefully ran the clock out, but that didn't happen. So there's nothing you can do if you don't play defense.
When you came out of Washington, and you had an unbelievable Rose Bowl performance, but why were you told you weren't drafted?
A lot of different reasons. It had nothing to do with the real reason, I think. They said I didn't come out of a pro-style offense. They said that a lot of teams who never even came out to look at me thought I wasn't tall enough. I wasn't big enough. I'm the same height as I am right now. I was probably 205 pounds at the time, which I think was pretty big enough to play quarterback. And just a lot of different reasons. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. But the biggest thing I think was they said that I didn't come out of a pro-style offense. And we didn't run a pro-style offense, but that didn't mean that I couldn't navigate into a pro-style offense if that's what I was asked to do. I ran the offenses that I was asked to run, and that's what good quarterbacks can do. They can make adjustments to different types of styles if they have the ability that they need to play the position.
And playing the position for as long as you did, there were code words that you would hear that would mean something. It would mean more to you than it would me.
Right.
Because they're saying, well, you didn't run a pro-style offense. Not that you couldn't adapt to run a pro-style offense, but all of a sudden we've labeled you. No, Cam Newton didn't run a pro-style offense.
No, but lots of guys didn't run pro-style offenses. But there's guys that ran option offenses in college, but they still they still got a chance to play in the NFL and at least show what they could do. So I wasn't taking that. And even Doug Williams, who ran a pro-style offense at Grambling the year that I came out, he was a first round draft pick, but he went to Tampa Bay, which was John McKay at the time, and John McKay had African American quarterbacks a bunch at USC, so he was used to having an African American quarterback. But if Doug wouldn't have went at 13, which was 13th pick, he should have went before that, but he went to 13. If he doesn't go to Tampa Bay at 13, he might not have went in the first round either. So that's just the time that we lived in. There was a mentality and a stigma about African American quarterbacks, and I knew it was going to be difficult for me to play that position when I chose to do it. So it didn't surprise me when things got a little more difficult as I got into college.
You hear this conversation now where people are saying, hey, maybe it's time to give Colin Kaepernick a chance. I just wonder, is it a legitimate chance for he's going to want to start? I think everything he's gone through, you don't want to go back into the NFL and say, okay, hey, we gave you your job. Now go away. You should be happy. He's a competitor like anybody is. He wants to start. But do you think Kaepernick, why now is somebody going to give him a chance when he hasn't played in 4 years? That now we give him a chance, and how do you think he would accept that opportunity?
Yeah, I think the only way he should be given a chance is if he can go through a workout for a team and pass their workout, because he, like you said, he hasn't played in 3 or 4 years. A lot has changed in the game, the way the game is being played right now. And you want to find out from him, you want to sit down with him and find out where his mindset is, because as a quarterback in the NFL, you have to be kind of all in, especially if you're trying to get a job and trying to recreate yourself in the league. It's not like he's an established guy and he can maybe start doing some things off the field. He's trying to get back into it. So he's got to really be focused and all in on this, because more so than any other position in sports, quarterback, you better be all in or it's not going to work well for you. So that would be my biggest question to him. Does he really want to play football? And then can he pass the workout of what a team would put him through? And then is he going to be focused enough to get up to speed to learn a team system? Because Cam Newton is sitting out there right now, and he's not a starter. Jameis Winston is a backup somewhere. This guy hasn't played in 4 years, so if he expects to come in and be a starter, that's not going to happen. He's going to have to work his way back in like some of the other guys who have been playing each and every week.
I was reading a column by Charles Robinson on Yahoo saying Roger Goodell has a small window to save his legacy and have a team sign Colin Kaepernick. How does the commissioner convince a team to sign Colin Kaepernick? I don't understand this.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen either. He has a lot of power, but I don't think he has that type of power because, again, he works for the owners, and the owners kind of make the decisions on how they want to do things. And there's got to be an owner out there that's willing to take that opportunity to sign him. I know the Seahawks had him in here a number of years ago and sat him down, and I think they got a chance to learn who he was. They got a chance to see him physically. And they put him, that was kind of part of their scouting process, that if we needed a quarterback, we knew this is a guy that maybe we could go to. So they know who he is. They've sat down with him. And I think this would be a good fit for him if, again, he answers those other questions we talked about, whether he can pass the workout and whether he's really totally into playing football, because Pete Carroll is open-minded, a coach that there is in the league. And the same thing with the ownership up here. So I think it could work up here, but again, those other questions have to be answered.
He's Warren Moon, the CFL and NFL Hall of Famer. You're the only player in both CFL and NFL Hall of Fame. Is that right?
I am, and only one other coach, I think, Bud Grant. Bud Grant is a coach in the Hall of Fame in Canada and also in the NFL, too. So,
what did you get for going? You get a jacket for going into the CFL Hall of Fame?
I do. I got a jacket and a bust. Kind of the same thing. You get a ring.
Nice.
Yeah.
A better looking jacket, Canton or the Hamilton Hall of Fame?
The jacket might look better in Canada because it's black.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to wear your Pro Football Hall of Fame jacket.
The gold jacket is cool. You love that you have one in your closet, but it's not something you're gonna wear as swag every weekend,
Yeah, it's hard to have an outfit that goes along with that gold jacket there.
Exactly.
and then what's your number inside on your Pro Football Hall of Fame jacket?
I think I'm 283.
283? Yeah, that was when Tony Dungy showed me that. That was really cool. When you see that number in there, that inside patch. It's pretty cool.
You are you know exactly where you stand in the history of the game.
Your salary first year in the CFL was what? 1978?
I got 35,000 to sign,
Wow.
and my first year's salary was 45,000.
Wow.
And that was considered like a equivalent to a second round contract in the NFL.
Well, you had to, that money would go a long way in Edmonton.
It did pretty well, but I was living in Seattle at the time. But when I first came to the NFL, and I was like a true free agent and highest paid player in the league when I came into the league, I signed for 5 years for $5.5 million.
Wow. But
they've changed a little since then.
But didn't you have a contract that you were always going to be one of the, I forget what it was, but didn't you get raises depending on other quarterbacks getting raises? Did your agent negotiate that where you were always going to be in the top 5 in salary?
Yeah, my second contract was like that. Yeah, it was called adjustable years. So
nice.
Nobody could ever be paid more than myself. So, and I imagine something like that would happen to today. You look at like a Dak Prescott who's worried about his contract, or Patrick Mahomes, who probably is going to be one of the top quarterbacks from here going forward. You would think they'd want to have something like that in their deal if it's allowed. Some of those things aren't allowed anymore, but if that was allowed.
Do you know if this is true that the story is LeBron James met his agent Rich Paul because Rich was wearing a Warren Moon jersey, and Rich was walking through an airport. LeBron stopped him and asked him where he got the jersey. Did you ever hear that?
I heard that story, yeah. I heard that story. And the next time I ever see LeBron, I'm going to mention that to him and see if it's really true.
Why'd you pick 1?
It was a number to me that was different. It was, in my mind, the number 1 is something I always strived for, to be the best. And then I also felt like as my teammates looked at me as the leader on a team, that number 1 is going to always remind them is that's what we want to be as a team as well. So it has significance as far as where I wanted to finish personally and where our team should want to finish as a team.
Were you there when Mike Renfro, the game against the Steelers?
When he was not there yet. No, that was
okay.
A couple of years before I got there.
Yeah, because Houston had some tough losses, and that Renfro catch they said wasn't a catch.
That was against Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that game up in Canada. I think I was up there at the time because Earl Campbell and I came out the same year, and he went to Houston as their number 1 overall pick. But I went to Canada, so I watched a lot of Houston Oilers games on television.
Man, Earl was something different, though. But that style, though, I mean, we see Derrick Henry now, but Earl took on everybody.
Yeah, and everybody in the stadium knew he was getting the ball pretty much every play, and he still couldn't be stopped. And when I got to Houston, it was about his 6th year. He was a little bit banged up by then, and he ended up getting traded the next year to New Orleans with Bum Phillips because he went to New Orleans. But I saw glimpses of who Earl still was during that 1 year that I played with him, 1.5 years, excuse me.
And it's still one of those highlights. Doesn't he hit Isaiah Robertson of the Rams right in the sternum?
And runs right through him and almost steps on him and goes on into the end zone. Ends up with no pads on at the same time.
He had that tearaway jersey.
More jerseys ripped off of him by any other player in the league.
It's good to talk to you, Warren. I hope you're doing well. We appreciate your perspective on all of this, and thanks for joining us.
I'm doing great, and I'm glad you're doing as well, and look forward to talking to you down the road.
Thank you, Warren. That's Warren Moon. 5 Grey Cups for him, and Pro Football and the Canadian Football League Hall of Fame there. He's Hall of Famer Michael Wilbon, ESPN's Pardon the Interruption co-host, NBA analyst as well, and a graduate of Northwestern. Is Northwestern a party school, Michael?
No.
Okay.
Not in the way that we think of party school. If you're going back to, for those of us a certain age, you would follow the Playboy magazine party school list decade after decade. No. I mean, we know how to find a good time or have a good time, but party school in the way that I could think of other party schools, no.
If I gave you
I loved it. I wouldn't trade it in for a time at any party school, but I wouldn't call it a party school.
Okay, if I gave you a do-over and you could go to a party school, but you have to pick a school,
Well, I'm right now, as I sit about 25 minutes from Tempe, Arizona at Arizona State University. That is a card carrying member of Party School Brigade. So I think I'd be a Sun Devil, Dan.
They're up there on the Mount Rushmore, it feels like, of party schools.
Yes, they are.
All right, I was watching you and Tony yesterday, and the topic of Major League Baseball came up, and I could just – and Tony said it's Groundhog's Day here. Like, you have to talk about it, but there's nothing to talk about here. And I keep saying to my audience, I hate doing this to you, but I feel obligated to at least touch on it every single day. I just can't advance it.
That's right. And Dan, as you know, this isn't the first time. I mean, baseball threatens to blow itself up every few years when there's a labor negotiation. And they've done it once. They've done it more than once. But 1994, of course, is the year they actually did it. And just blew up not just a season, but a tremendous season, a season that was shaping up, I guess, as late as August to be one of the great seasons, one of the great summers in baseball history. They've done it, and so they'll do it. And I guess, I don't know, 30% of me thinks they won't do it this time. They can't do it this time. It would be, nothing is unforgivable in the world or a few things are, because of the shelf life, and people forgive, and even if they don't forget, they come back to you. But Dan, and I keep thinking, okay, they'll get it done because they realize the consequences of not getting it done this summer. But 70% of me is now thinking, you know what? These sides are hateful enough of each other in this context of labor negotiation that they will do it. They'll do it again. And so I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? Give me your odds now of baseball actually having a season versus not.
I talked to a smart guy yesterday, a TV executive, and he said, don't get caught up. You know, you got to see, it's like the trees in the forest here. And he said, don't get caught up in that there's too much money. They'll eventually get something. It might not resemble what you think a baseball season is, but they will put a product out there. They understand the stakes. The owners know, what the gray area is. The Players Association knows the gray area. You have to clean that up a little bit in the margins, and they'll eventually play baseball. And I go, all right. He goes, don't quote me, but they're going to play baseball. A couple things here. I know that ESPN shies away from talking politics. We get caught up in this, stick to sports. A couple of years ago with the Colin Kaepernick, the anthem, and you probably got a memo or there was an edict of, let's talk sports here. Now we come back around to this with George Floyd, with what happened, and then the fallout here with all of the players involved in this. Like, how do you not incorporate this in the rundown on Pardon the Interruption every day? Or do you get any pushback on that?
No, we haven't had any pushback. And you know me well enough to know I don't read those memos anyway. I mean, you're right. I'm sure they go out. I pay zero attention. And you know that this is what people are talking about in the world, from your household to anywhere people gather, even if they don't want to, even if it's a whisper, even if there are pockets of people who don't want to deal with it, to not deal with what is clearly an emotional topic which affects sports. It affects sports. It's going to affect sports. Wait till we get to the NFL season. Yeah. And like a third of the players are kneeling. Or, you may get coaches, or you may get, the way the Roger Goodell has sounded lately, it wouldn't shock anybody if he took a knee to start a game when we get to September. And so it's the story, one of the stories of our lives. We're going to look back at 2020, and even in a pandemic, and maybe even partly because of the pandemic, we're going to have, you can't write the history of this year. You may not be able to write the history of a chunk of years here without dealing with this entire topic, which of course is precipitated by the murder of George Floyd. What
if we just didn't have the anthem? And you allowed the players to go to the middle of the field, take a knee to start the game? I mean, I'm just, we didn't used to show this, but I'm just thinking out loud of how do we do something that allows the players to have their moment, and then we don't upset people who look at this differently than what we may look at this?
That, you know what? When I first heard that suggestion, I was like, no, you can't start these games without the anthem. And then I thought you could, but okay, how about this? And I wish I knew where I read this over the weekend. What about a minute after the anthem that allows people to do whatever they want? You can hold up a sign, you can do whatever you want in the minute after. Mm-hmm. And I thought, God, I wish I should be able to attribute that. But I just thought, you know what? Which is sort of a take, a slightly different one off what that other suggestion is about not having it. And you know how you move off positions? Like one of the favorite things in my life, Dan, is going to a Blackhawks game, Chicago Blackhawks game, and hearing the playing of the anthem. Yeah. And a gentleman named Jim Cornelison singing the anthem, and the standing ovation, the passionate, deep, guttural applause and stomping for the Star Spangled Banner before every home Blackhawks game. It's one of the great joys I have. Like if I go to a Blackhawks game and somebody's meeting me, I say, you make sure you get there 20 minutes early. There's none of this Los Angeles, there's traffic, I'm just getting to my seat after the puck drops. We're not doing that. And so but you get conditions that sometimes move you off positions. I might move you off your original spot. And so it's not my favorite suggestion, Dan, but you know what? We're all having to consider new things, new positions, new ways of doing things that will accommodate the group. And wow, I don't want to go there, but I'm not going to sit here and say, I think that's insane and should not be considered, because I think we've got to consider a lot of things now.
He's Michael Wilbon, ESPN's Pardon the Interruption. What role does Colin Kaepernick play in Colin Kaepernick maybe coming back to play? It feels like everybody's talking for Colin Kaepernick. Where's Colin Kaepernick?
It's been suggested, not in 2016, 17, or 18, but it's certainly been suggested the last 2 years that Colin Kaepernick isn't interested in playing, that he's good now with this. And I don't want to be too cynical because I haven't believed that. I thought what the NFL did last year with that sort of fake combine situation was just fraudulent on every level. But I don't know Kaepernick well enough, Dan, I can't sit here and say, I talk to people who know him and he absolutely wants to play. I don't know Kaepernick that well. Does he want to play? And so it seems to me now he might have a real opportunity, not that fake fraudulent opportunity from a year ago. But Dan, how many owners have we heard from? It's unbelievable. We've heard from everyone in the last 8 to 10 days. Everybody. We've heard from people, we all play the game, dead or alive, so-and-so, name a celebrity. We've heard from that person, whether it's on Instagram or a statement or, a TMZ microphone. We've heard from everyone. What NFL owner have we heard from? We certainly haven't heard from Jerry Jones. So how resentful are the NFL owners going to be of all of this, including the guy who serves them? Roger Goodell. How upset are they going to be at Goodell? Are we going to talk about 4 to 8 NFL owners who are okay with this? Are we going to talk about 15, 18, 20? Jerry Jones going to stand in his position and you can't work for me and take a knee? I think all of this, we haven't even seen the real controversy of the NFL yet. Presuming there's a season, we're going to see it. But I think the Kaepernick question boils down to, everybody says, Tony says this is the time. We're going to see change. And he likens it to when he was, a young man in his 20s and we were coming through the late 60s and early 70s and what we saw in the country. I'm not that optimistic. And part of the reason is I don't know what we're going to see from NFL owners and toward their attitudes about whether or not there's going to be change in that culture.
But also with Kaepernick, it feels like this is the black quarterback version of the Rooney Rule. Like, hey, we're going to bring you in, and it feels like tokenism. It just doesn't feel real. Yeah. What has changed other than Kaepernick has gotten older? Now he gets a chance because why? Because you feel bad? Because you blackballed him? And if I'm Kaepernick, I go, nope, I'm not letting you off that easy here.
Well, yes, I completely agree with everything you said. You know what? Again, part of it goes back to, again, I don't want to be too cynical about this because I think this is obviously this is such a sensitive issue. Does Kaepernick like being perceived as a martyr? Like, what's his agenda? How much money did he get from the NFL, and what were the terms of that? Like, I truly believe, the piece Howard Bryant had on ESPN.com this weekend, which I thought was a brilliant piece, talked about Goodell not mentioning Kaepernick's name. I don't know what that agreement included. Like, it's part of me, given that the commissioner just completely gave it up, right, for that group of players who was in that video late last week, the not mentioning of Kaepernick's name seems to have an agenda.
Yep.
Like, what else is in there? What if he and Kaepernick, or the league and Kaepernick, agreed to that we don't know? Because remember, do we know the financial terms? We don't even know that, right? Like, we don't know how much money he got from that.
I was told that it was nowhere near what was reported. It was probably around $5 million. That people were estimating it was $50 million. I was told it was $5 million for Kaepernick.
Yeah, I was toward your end of it. I'm thinking like 10, but the notion that it was 20 or more, it just seemed to me to be un-NFL like, unless they perceived something else was coming that they wanted to sidestep, like, and including discovery. But man, the Kaepernick issue is, Dan, in some ways, look, this guy, I don't want to turn him into John Carlos and Tommy Smith, because I don't believe he was that. The suffering is on a different scale. The sacrifice is on a different scale. But he had the guts. Yep. He had the guts to do this. And then he sort of lost me personally when he said, I didn't vote. People died for the right to vote. And he said, I didn't vote. And this is the most fundamental exercise we have in a democracy, even more so or as much as the right to free speech and protest and assembly. And so, but I go back to, he had the guts to do this. He was a fine player. If anybody wants to look around the NFL and tell me Kaepernick's not better than like 28 of the backups and probably 15 of the starters, I mean, I live in a city, I root for a team that hasn't had a quarterback as good as Kaepernick since, Jim McMahon. So, like, I don't want to hear that Colin Kaepernick can't play in the NFL, because that's just an insult and a lie. Does he want to? Does he want to? And are several somebodies going to create what we call a market to see if that happens? I got my doubts.
Mike, good to talk to you. My best to Tony, and hopefully we'll get a chance to cross paths here soon.
Dan would love that, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It's Michael Wilbon, Hall of Famer.